over hustle? Why would anyone choose homemaking over it? That's a good question, and one that I've asked myself 100 times. So in this video, I wanted to focus on this topic while making some delicious brown stewed chicken, which is a typical Caribbean dish, and just show you what my evening looks like, being pregnant and with a 7-month-old running under my feet. So why did I choose a life of homemaking over hustle culture? For me, it was about competition. Being in a state of constantly needing to compete led me to living in my masculine and always needing to look for the next promotion. I was constantly thinking about who do I need to talk to or network with in corporate to get my foot in the next door. And even when I got the job I wanted, my mind was already thinking about the next step, the next role I wanted to be in. And I was constantly on the move, never rested, just trying to keep up with the pace of everyone and everything else around me. And what happened is it led me to exhaustion, not just physical, but mental and emotional exhaustion every time I would get home. And I wasn't actually happy with my life. I was just doing what was quote unquote expected of me by society standards and living that hustle life. Another reason that made me choose the homemaking lifestyle rather than living in corporate and following the hustle culture was the rejection of how homemaking was seen in society, taking on a traditional role and how people's responses were towards it. I found that it was quite contradictory. And what I mean by that is that I found that if a woman says, I want to be a stay-at-home mum, even though society says that all women's choices are equal and accepted, is it actually? Because I know for where I worked, if I was to announce a management title or that I'm going to work at a Fortune 100 company, I would get cheers and well dones and congratulations. But if I was to say, I want to stay at home, raise my children, be at home with my husband, focus on the family, there would be pauses, pushbacks, judgment for sure. And it made me question, are all decisions that a woman makes or her choices in life really equal? Or is it only deemed as good when it aligns with hustle culture and with what society's expectations of a woman should be? I personally do believe that the tide is turning. The outcomes of hustle culture on women is showing, and it's not for the best. By the way, at the moment, I'm doing a typical Vincentian thing, which is browning meat. I put a little bit of sugar in oil, let it brown, and then I add in the chicken. And when it's completely browned on both sides, I take it out, and then I'll put in the onions, the other veg in to be the base of the stew. So that's what I'm doing. Also, I'm boiling some carrots because I'm making a carrot puree for my baby who's currently being weaned. So I want something that's very soft and easy. So I just boil those for him and then I'll blitz them into a puree later on. And here you can see me adding in the onions and the chopped bell peppers to the dish. So back to the topic. I did a little bit of research, and one thing I found was that women's well-being isn't higher with more freedom in this day and age. And what is meant by that is that research showed that women in the West, such as Europe and America, although we do have more freedoms, which is amazing and it's great, and we have far more rights and opportunities than we did in the past decades. And even though we've been screaming that this is what women want, this is what they need. It hasn't actually led to overall happiness within women, which is a quote-unquote paradox, because it's being reported that women's happiness is actually far worse, with far more emotional distress than past generations, which seemingly had less rights. In today's age, women often have to carry the double burden of work responsibilities plus housework. And I can tell you now that I'm pregnant and with a mum, and I have an amazing husband and in-laws and mum and support system, I would be miserable having to, on top of manage raising children, add on commuting, add on the demand of a 9-to-5, plus cooking, plus housework, plus being pregnant and raising a baby. No. I just know that for me, at some point I could probably manage it, but it would end up to me crashing and burning, which is what I started to feel when I was in corporate, that state of exhaustion that I mentioned. Not to say that it's not possible for women to have a great balance. I know that there's women out there that are killing it and doing a great job balancing work life with home life. For me, I just know that my happiness is best when it's poured purely on the things that matter the most to me, like my children, time that I can never get back with them, as opposed to a job. I want to be fully engaged, and I feel like in this day and age, children more than ever need so much attention, as there's so much things that can derail children, a marriage, and I just want to be very present. By the way, yes, of course, how can I make brown stew chicken without frying some plantain? I've just got to do it. So that's what I'm doing now. I've chopped it up, I've added a little bit of salt, and now I'm just frying it. With baby on the foot as well, I'm managing the best I can with filming with little one. Here the carrots are boiled, and I'm just starting on baby's puree. So all I do is just add it in and blend it, and this is great. And then I add it to the ice cube trays and just freeze it, and I pop it out as and when he needs to eat, and it's sorted. I don't just do it with carrots. I've done this with sweet potatoes, broccoli, spinach, fish, chicken, mince, you name it. To conclude, this conversation is incredibly nuanced, and being at home doesn't automatically equate to happiness. I've definitely found that I've had to create my own happiness by managing self-care and doing things specifically and intentionally that I enjoy to make myself happy. And who knows, in the future I may want to end up working again for I am a husband's business or part-time, I don't know. But right now, being at home, being a homemaker and staying with my children while they're young is what fulfills me and what I want to do. But that may not be what someone else wants to do or what you want to do. Only you know on your paper what makes you happy. I just think there needs to be equal support for women that want to work or those that want to stay at home. You can see the end result of my brown stew chicken and meal, the plantain, the rice, the asparagus, everything's done. The sauce is so tasty and delicious. I hope you loved my recipe and being with me today while I cooked. Please do drop a comment, as I do read them, and it'll be great for any ideas on what to talk about next. And without further ado, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.